Okay, if you are selling in spring, this is a show to watch for you. This is the best time of year to sell. I say that every time. But it is. And you want to know why. Selling in winter means you've got exclusivity as a seller, because everybody waits until next year to put their house on the market. When you put your house on, the demand's still there because every buyer is still looking on their phones on Rightmove and Prime Locations, Zoopla, and all the different websites. They're all still looking over the. I mean, who wants to lose out on their dream home just because it's like I don't want to buy in winter? No, of course they don't. It slows down from day to week because it gets darker at night, so people can't view as much during nighttime because it's darker quicker. So it goes from weekend to weekend, but it still is buoyant and it's still as fast, and you get outstanding offers. Now, for anybody out there that says, "Oh, but it'll be slow and I can't sell it winter," I'll give you a wee clue here. I have sold a house on Christmas Eve, on Christmas Day, on Boxing Day, on New Year's Eve, and on New Year's Day to disprove that theory. And in between as well. And I've got astronomical offers as the result of that. You're only as busy for your property as your agent is at this time of year. So this is how to play the seed and strength and to move home in the spring. You have to do it now. 6 months it takes to sell a house from start to finish. So we're sitting at December, January, February, March, April, May, June. You're almost in summertime.
That's quite scary.
True,
when you say that.
You're almost in summer. You're too late. If you're selling in spring, you're too late. You should have done it 3 months ago. But Perry, what do people need to know at this point in time? Because we're going to talk about this all the way through. We're also going to talk about should you put your Christmas decorations up or not, because that's probably important as well. But we will get to that at some point in time. So hang tight, listen in, and if you're selling or if you're thinking about selling, if you're waiting to sell your house because you're waiting for your dream home to come on the market, guess what they're doing as well? They ain't coming on the market either because they're doing exactly the same as you. Somebody has to break that cycle, and it has to be you. So let's go for it. Perry, over to you. What's your thoughts? Let's open this up, this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think absolutely activity levels are lower at the Christmas period. I think people always think that. But actually, that's a brilliant time for you to do it because more eyes are on your property. It's the biggest online activity that happens is around Christmas. Christmas Day comes with a flash because everyone's really busy with their families, aren't they? But we get to Boxing Day, everybody's had enough of all of that. And they start, as you said, Jim, hitting their phones, hitting their laptops. So what we absolutely see is actually over the holidays, Rightmove reaches 25 million clicks on their portals across the UK. So obviously there's a large proportion of that happening in Scotland and particularly in Fife as well. So absolutely, if you're looking to sell, we definitely see that there's a bit of what we would call a Boxing Day bounce. And that's absolutely when everyone gets active. They're looking at the portals because Christmas Day, I know it's only one day, but actually people have worked up to that for probably 2 or 3 months. I was at a lady the other day and I went into her third room, which is our spare room. The bed was covered in gift boxes and packs. All the Christmas shopping was done. So people are kind of focused on that. They're not really focused on potentially maybe putting their house on the market. That's a mistake in my view, because actually Boxing Day is when we see the highest activity on our social media channels, on our website. They go through the roof on that day. There's various reasons for that. All the planning's done, so people have kind of got a bit of a lull, don't they? You get all this excitement when you're building up to something. It's like going on holiday, isn't it? You got all the excitement of going on holiday, but the journey back's hellish because you've nothing to look forward to. And people kind of get like that on Boxing Day, I think. So when Boxing Day comes, absolutely, they start looking at all the channels and they're looking to see what's out there. So for me, that is the prime time. The reason it's prime time as well is that actually you're not competing against as many people, because everyone else is thinking they can go in January or February to sell in spring. Jim, you've just demonstrated actually it's going to take much longer than that to sell your house if you want to move in spring. So the smart people will actually think about doing it just now, because that's when they're going to get their activity at the highest point, when people are sitting and they're bored and they're starting to plan for next year. So for me, that's a real prime time to be doing it.
What about you, Sophie? What's your thoughts on this?
Well, even when you think Boxing Day, and it's probably a wee bit like when you came out of the pandemic, everybody's been cooped up in that house as well on Boxing Day. They've had family round and they've actually realised we've not actually got enough space to have everybody here, or we need more space for all the toys that the kids have just been gifted. And everybody then sits and they're sitting on Boxing Day going, do you know what? I perhaps need a dining room, or perhaps I need something open plan, or I need more actual storage space. So that's when people get online as well. And they actually start taking advantage of the fact they've got nothing else to think about other than where is my next home? And then actually on the back of that, you can be quite confident on the people that are coming out on the days after Christmas and in this winter period.
Yeah.
They're not just coming out for the sake of it, because let's face it, it's freezing. They're motivated. They're looking for the next home. They're not just out for a jolly or a drive-by. That
So
gets
serious.
limited. Yeah, they're more serious. They're shopping with intent, or they're browsing for the next home with intent. And that is the key here, is there's very less window shoppers. And I think that's a big thing to play on. And that's when we can then start playing into the mood and the magic of it. I'm starting to feel it now when I'm out doing my videos and I'm standing and my hands are getting cold and I'm starting to shiver while I'm standing. I thought that yesterday. So it is taking a real turn, and buyers will think that. So we need to make sure that we're kind of making an atmosphere that, yes, it is the colder months, but what are we doing to add that warmth to it? Because we always say buyers don't just shop with what they see, they shop with what they feel and what they smell.
Yeah.
And we need to hone in on all of those senses. And I think that's something we're going to get deeper into as we go through this show, is actually how we can add the warmth and kind of cozy up, if you could say. And that is definitely something we're going to get to detail in.
So what about this? When this is one of the things we want to talk about. Winter viewing is all about making your viewers feel instantly cozy when they come in the door and comfortable. So they want to, all they want to do is relax and defrost and enjoy the actual visit they're viewing your house. So what sort of things should a seller or a potential seller out there listening in and tuning in right now, what sort of things should they be doing, Sophie?
Well, first of all, there's so many different things, but there's really nothing worse than opening that front door and walking into a house that is cold, because that instantly just makes you tense. I know, I do it myself, and we'll all be the same. You instantly tense up and you get that shiver that kind of goes down your back, and then you do feel tense as you're then walking through the house, and you don't really tend to relax as much into the space. And we really want them to feel that instant coziness and feel comfortable. Not too hot, and we say this, and it might seem like we're making things complicated for you, but not too hot as well. You don't want it to be.
I'm guilty of that. I mean, every single time, every single time, Perry says, "God, it's too hot in here."
Every time I come to your house when we have our meetings, I'm like, oh my God, the heat in here. And that's nothing to do with the age I am. It literally is you have the house too warm.
Yeah. Okay, guilty.
And I think that's the key. Have the heating on, but keep it on low and just have it ticking over. Because we do want that warmth and that really welcoming feeling. And then that really just sets the tone for the rest of the viewing. And it's even little things like, let's face it, it's the colder months, but it's also where it gets a lot wetter as well. And we've perhaps got brollies, we've perhaps got our boots on. There's nothing worse than when you get to that front door, you get in, yes, the heat hits you, but then you're kind of standing looking, where do I wipe my feet? Do I need to take my shoes off? Where can I put my shoes? I don't want to traipse through. Is it perhaps?
My question then is, what can a seller do for potential viewers when they walk in the door and they have things like the brollies and the muddy boots and that? What, to make them feel more comfortable about? Because for me personally, I feel really uncomfortable having to walk through somebody's house in that with all these things on my, around about me and my feet and dripping over somebody's carpets and everything that's like that. That would just really put me off. So what can a seller do then to help that and assist that position?
Just simple things. Have a mat ready so that they can at least wipe their feet. Is there then perhaps somewhere where we could have like a little dedicated area of a shoe tray? And ideally, we want these to be empty. So yes, you might have it for your shoes, but that's no use if there's no space for them to put their shoes. So actually look at really simplifying and minimizing what you perhaps have in your entrance space so that there is space for viewers. So have a shoe tray that is empty. Then also look at, is there coat hooks? Because yes, we're thinking about shoes, but think about the coats as well. If they've just come in through an absolute downpour, it's not just going to be their coats, the shoes that's going to be dripping, it's going to be their coats as well. So is there somewhere they can then hang that up perhaps and make sure that there is empty hooks? So it's all these little things, and it's inexpensive things as well. But again, it just sets the tone for the viewing if they have somewhere that they can put these things. And then it's almost like they're leaving those outside elements outside. They then relax into this warm space,
Mm-hmm.
and then they can start that viewing. And it really does set the tone for that homely feel.
Great advice. Perry, what about, things like log burners, open fires? Is that a good idea to have these things on at this time of year?
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait. As you know, I had one fitted last year, so it's super enjoyable to have them on. Sorry for my little absence here as well. Jock's wanting in on the action. It's chatting away to me here. Yeah, absolutely. Log burners are a great thing. And for me, especially if the property isn't occupied all year round, because actually the winter time is actually when the house is at its coldest. And when you go in, it can feel not only that it's cold, but you almost get a sense of the dampness too when it doesn't really exist. But
Yes.
it's just that cold feeling you get, isn't it? So for me, absolutely, having a crackling display, there's nothing nicer than doing that. For me, I had a client, it was an East Neuk property. It was a really blustery, wintry day. And before the viewings in the morning, they'd spent time lighting the log burner. And every single person that came into the property thought that that was a fantastic idea. So they didn't necessarily need to have the heating on. But what they did do, because it was on the top level of the burner, the heat was traveling all through the house. So it just gave like a really even feel throughout the property. And it was a really nice way to do it. But it's not just actually the heat that it gives, it's the visuals as well. We talk a lot about emotions, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's when you walk into the room, you feel the warmth of it, but actually you also see it. So that lights it up. I mean, I've often done it myself where the TV is off and I'm just sat watching the fire, reading a book. And it's just a lovely feeling and a nice atmosphere. So that feels warm, it feels cozy, it feels inviting. And it makes your viewer actually feel, I want to sit in this room, I want to enjoy this space. Because that's what it's all about. You're creating that opportunity for them to visualize living in that space, because the emotion is what you connect with.
It is the adage about people can see themselves with sitting there with a glass of wine or a glass of
Mhm.
sherry, a glass of
Mhm.
whiskey or anything like that, and just kind of with friends and family round about them at that point in time, and the roaring fire. I would even, for people that don't have a fireplace or they don't have a log burner or anything like that, you get them on YouTube as well. We put a link in this post to the article, and on that, in the time to cozy up, we've got because we've got all this content on here for anybody to read. If you've got 3 minutes, you can just read through this. But there is a link to YouTube, a flicker flame. Put my teeth back in. For magic from YouTube, and actually it's got the sounds and it's got the crackling and it's got the fire, and it's like, and with the advent of high definition televisions, it looks so realistic.
It really does.
Yeah, and we
I
often used.
had a client the other day I went to, and they had exactly that thing, and I was doing a viewing. They didn't have a fire on it; they had a different picture on it, but it looked like a piece of artwork. But it was the television. And actually, the viewer said, "What's that on the wall? That's an unusual piece of artwork." And I said, "Well, actually, it's television." She's, "My, I've never seen that because it just looks so stunning." So you're absolutely right, Jen. That looks really great when people do that, because it gives that same feeling, doesn't it? You won't necessarily get the heat from it, but like Sophie said, if you've got your heating on, you're still getting the visual and the warmth in the property anyway. But one of the other things I would recommend as well, not only with the log burner, but again with the YouTube and all the music options that you have, either. For me, I'm not a big lover of putting the TV on, I must admit, even if you've got that on low, because I feel it's a distraction for whoever's going in. But actually, you can have low music on, and low music's quite inviting for people as they're walking through the house as well, because sometimes for the viewer, it can be quite uncomfortable walking through someone's private space, can't it? But music just has that bit of a accent, so it allows, again, people just to come in and feel that they're comfortable with the property.
That's a good point. If your house feels a bit tinny, or or it's a bit sparse, if that makes sense. Maybe you've got laminate floors, you've got just bare walls, because you've possibly moved out already. It might be worth putting just a slight bit of music, maybe a speaker. I mean, I have speakers with me, so sometimes I'll take speakers and leave them in the kitchen or something like that, and switch on my phone, and that sort of thing, just to keep an ambient bit of music, so it keeps people occupied. I mean, some people's minds, they're not they need that stimulation all the time, and to be total silence is quite difficult for them. So it helps them in transition, but music not too loud then, I take it. Just ambient.
Absolutely. You're just having it on low. just as a welcoming sound, really. As you say, it
Do you
just
think
breaks that silence barrier a little bit, which I think is quite welcoming.
do
I
you
think as
think
well, if people get
channels like
silent,
do you think channels like Smooth FM's maybe want to go for and
yes,
stuff like that?
yeah, that's exactly what I listen to at home, actually, if I'm relaxing. And I think that's a good one to put on, because if it's complete silence, what you tend to find as well is that, especially if the agent is doing the viewing or the homeowner is doing the viewing, if it's quiet, it's just a natural thing that you want to fill that space with some noise. So then you just start talking, don't you? And then you're over talking.
Yeah.
And the person that's actually trying to view and enjoy the property can't focus on the rooms because they're just hearing this noise from either the agent, who's totally doing that wrongly, or from the seller. So the music just calms all that down, I think, as
Yeah.
long as it's low.
And that combined with things like throws and natural throws and fluffy sheepskins and stuff like that, and the warming colours, that would probably be beneficial as well, eh?
100%.
100%. For me, that's a big thing for making it warm. And these are really easy things. They tend to be things that you've already got in your home. So everyone's got that closet that they put everything in, that they change out the seasonal things. So absolutely, it's good to have your seasonal colours coming out, because it creates the warmth as well. But actually, a little tip I would give as well on that, with the throws and with the wool kind of colours and the naturals and the warming colours. At the moment, there's a lot of burnt auburny colours out there as well, which is quite nice for winter time. But for me as well, don't forget your garden in this process, because actually your garden doesn't tend to look its best at this time of year. We all know that. My garden's covered in leaves at the moment. I'm constantly out there cleaning it up. Well, I say me, Billy, really.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're cleaning it. But it's great for you to actually make sure that you decorate that side of things as well, because again, putting those things outside makes, it's just an extension of the home, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the garden
Yeah.
wants to feel cozy too.
Yeah, and we've got that in for later on, so we're going to
Yeah.
talk about that in a wee while. But I think the one thing, just to finish off this section, is probably the use of vanilla scented candles, spice candles, things like that at this time of year. Reed diffusers, aromas, and stuff like that. Spruce, cinnamon, pine, orange, and you'll really leave your viewers. I think personally, it's like what you two say. It's the emotion. It's the emotion drives motion. And that's what sells a house.
Yeah.
That's why people want to buy it, because they can see themselves. They're emotionally connected to it now. It's not just, oh, it's got 4 bedrooms. It's got. They know that. That's why they've come to view it, for that reason. They know it's got 4 bedrooms. What they want to know is, what is it going to give me, and how am I going to feel about it when I walk in the door? See, it's all about feelings when it comes down to it. That then takes me into, especially at this time of year, when it's a wee bit darker, about amplifying the daylight. It's, sometimes it's quite difficult. The days are shorter. The sun is sitting a bit lower in the sky. Winter is the time to help your home really stay on the bright side, I would say, whether it's grey or gloomy outside or crisp or clear. Sophie, what sort of things can we do then to help that situation?
There is so many little tips and tricks, and also a lot of these are inexpensive as well. It's things you've perhaps already got in the home. It's just a case of just doing it. Cleaning your windows. It is as simple as just cleaning your windows. And when we say that, we say the outside and the inside as well. Don't forget both sides of it. But clean your windows. And when we say that as well, especially from the outside, don't forget the sills. They've perhaps got leaves on them, or they've got debris sitting. Clear the windowsills, clean the windows inside and out, so that if there is days where you've got sun splitting the trees, then we can at least get the benefit of it and let it through. Trim back as well.
Probably trimming back the ivy, like what you've just about to say. Trimming back the ivy and stuff like that. I mean, it looks really beautiful from the outside, but inside it actually is quite enclosing, and it cuts out a lot of light, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think it's another thing as well. There's nothing worse than if you're walking up to do a viewing, if it's perhaps overgrown and you're having to brush past it, and then that's getting you wet as well because it's perhaps been raining. So then you feel like you've got a battle before you even get in the front door.
Yeah.
If we can just trim it back and keep it neat, and then just make sure things are clear as well. Because with that, is there perhaps your pathway leading to the front door? Is it perhaps covered in foliage and leaves as well? And yes, it doesn't look great, and it is one of those jobs that feels tedious, that you've constantly got to be doing it, absolutely. But there is an element of safety in this as well, because we've all probably done it. We've all slipped at some point on wet leaves, and we've all gone down like a sack of potatoes. And there's nothing worse if that's your viewer's first experience, and especially if they're perhaps got mobility issues or they're elderly, and before they even get to the front door, they've got concerns and they've got worries about how am I getting, because there's not that clear path. So it might seem like a tedious job, but it is something that, again, it's just about all making those first impressions. Then as well, think about, so you've cleaned your windows, that's great, that's perfect, but make sure your curtains are open, make them sure they're nice and wide, have them open. If you've got blinds, open your blinds, and even if you still want them from an element of privacy, you don't have to have them completely open, even just halfway or a quarter way, just so we can at least get some of that light breaking through. But again, if you have got blinds, there's nothing worse than if the sun's shining through and you see the thick layer of dust if you've perhaps got Venetian blinds. So again, might seem like I'm giving you a really big to-do list and a lot of cleaning jobs, but really there is a benefit to it. So while you're cleaning your windows, just give your blinds a quick once over as well. Do that at the same time. And then as well, I think a big thing for me, and not a lot of people sometimes will clock onto it, but you need to be strategic about where you're placing things. And when I say this, I mean your mirrors. Be really strategic, especially if you've got maybe a small space or a small area, or perhaps a room that is only maybe got one window in and it already feels quite dark and honed in. Or if perhaps it's on an area of the house or a position that it doesn't get the light through. If we've done what we can in terms of the window and we've cleaned it, we've got the blind open, etc., and it's still not giving us enough light, think about a mirror and how we can then position it perfectly so that we get that reflection coming off it.
Hall mirrors tend to be the best opportunity. What's your thoughts on that, Perry? I mean, because mirrors are actually quite important throughout the house, as well as things like, just as Sophie said, things like the blinds and the curtains and the windows. And there's nothing, I've got to say, there's nothing worse when walking into a house and you actually see the haze on the window on the inside.
I know.
You know, from when it's maybe summertime, because it's higher in the, you know, it's higher, the sun's higher in the sky in summer. It sometimes doesn't reflect because it's lower. It goes directly in, and then you start to see all the haze coming out the window. It's the same with your car windscreen, isn't it? Inside, it's you just begin to see all these things. You know, so what have you got anything additional to add to this?
Absolutely, I think for me, you're absolutely right, Sophie. It's about making sure that they're clean and they're bright, but it's also strategic as well with that light coming in, because it's particularly hallways, to use that as the example. Hallways can be quite dark. It's not all hallways that have windows in them. So I think the mirror really brings that in. And even if there is a small window in the hallway, the light bounces off that mirror and it actually creates a bit of an illusion. It makes it feel brighter, but it also makes the hallway feel bigger as well. I had a client who actually mastered this, and what they had done was they had enough space that they were able to put like a little narrow sideboard, and it was very creative what they did, because then they had a nice glass plate, they had a lovely lamp, and the sun that was coming in from the window was bouncing off of these things, and then it was almost like you were getting the color collision that was creating almost like a rainbow in the hallway, and that was beautiful to see, and it was really warming and welcoming as well. So for me, I think that's a really important thing as well. But again, if you're going to have these things in, make sure that you have dusted them, because it actually can have the adverse effect if you've not cared for it, because it can come across as negative because it looks dull and dirty. And then that's your instant reaction when you come into a hallway. You're thinking then, what does the rest of the house look like? So that's not always a good thing. But actually, some of the things people forget with their lamps as well is to dust the light bulb. I know that sounds crazy, but actually it's really important, especially at this time of year when we're darker in the mornings, it's getting darker earlier in the evenings, late afternoon. So you may have viewers who want to come and see it around 4 o'clock, for instance, and we know that dusk's kind of coming around then now. So if you're putting those lamps on and they don't look clean and all the trims are covered in dust, it doesn't give off a good feeling at all, and it doesn't make it feel warm and cozy. So it's a really minimalistic thing, but actually it's a real quick way to get yourself looking brighter in a space that potentially is smaller. So for me, that's a really big thing.
Now you mention that, one of the things that you have to watch out at this time of year as well is when you put your heating on for the first time, or after a couple of times, you actually begin to smell the dust in the room.
Yes.
It's actually very off-putting, isn't it?
Very much so.
People. So dust and radiators and stuff like that is probably quite important. This is where Betterware gets a wee lift here, because you know you've always got these the radiator cleaner. I'm not sure if Betterware's still going. Somebody else could tell me that.
Is that still a thing, Jim? I think.
But these are the sort of things that you can buy, isn't it? The radiator cleaners in between. And just to clean all that out, because it is quite important. These are things that you just miss, and it's only when you switch the heating on at this time of year, or you switch the heating up then it starts to eat all that up. I mean, it's all right ambient for most of the year, but then when you turn it up quite high, because it's like, oh my God, it's freezing here. So you turn the heating up in the radiators, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, that smell.
You get that burny
It's
smell,
that
isn't it?
dusty
Dusty.
smell, isn't it? And I
One of
think
the
that
good things, sorry, one of the good things to do there that I've learned
no, to put
is,
people off,
you know how
really.
oh, sorry, on you go.
It's fine, yeah.
No, all I was going to say, the other good thing with radiators as well is that you know how you get the, and there's many other products, but you get the Lenore soft fabric sheets that you can put in your tumble dryers. They're brilliant, actually. If you fold those and then you can just put them, because you know your radiator's got all the wee slats at the top. Most of them do, don't they? And then just fold one and slip it down in there as well. And so when your heating's coming on, again, that's creating a lovely scent, and you're getting all those spicy smells at this time of the year as well. So that's another good way of doing it, because not everybody wants to have plug-in diffusers, especially if you've got pets. They're not really eco-friendly either. Not everyone wants to have candles burning because they might have young children, so that's a concern. So these little Lenore things, they're really safe, they're environmentally friendly, and they smell amazing. And each time you put your heating on, the warmth of the radiators getting that smell out into the rooms.
I'm a big fan of just going round and spraying the plug holes in the bathrooms and stuff like that, and in the kitchens, where we just a cleaner, like a fabric softener, water it down in a canister and just spray it in the plug hole, because it just gives that smell at that point in time. The other one as well is a classic. If you've got stainless steel and you've always got it where it's a bit, it's a bit difficult to make it all look the same. Baby oil kitchen roll. It's a cleaner's tip. It looks perfect. It takes all the blemishes out the stainless steel, and it looks a perfect sheet. And the same with your hob as well. If you've got a stainless steel hob, baby oil, a wee bit, and it also gives that emotional smell, doesn't it? Because it's like the kids and the babies and all the rest of it, and a lot of parents and adults, it's like oh wow, it's like that brings them back without actually knowing it. Smells can actually be a perfect opportunity to evoke or what is effectively an anchor in someone, to get emotional response, which is actually quite positive when they're actually coming around your house.
Very much so. I mean, smells are transformative, aren't they? They take you to a place, don't they? Which I think is really important. So again, it's about that positive experience that someone's having. I never knew that about the baby oil thing. That's a good thing, because I've recently had my kitchen done and it's got a big stainless steel exfoliator. So yeah, I'm going to try that one.
And also if you've got stainless steel sinks and that, it's a wee wonder just to make it, just to freshen it up before somebody walks in the door. So a tiny bit of baby oil on a bit of kitchen roll and just wipe it over it, and it'll look great in the front of your oven or something like that if it's a stainless steel door and stuff. And it just looks the part. Obviously, as a long-term solution, it'll gather dust, but as a one-off to make it look showroom condition, and bring the life back into stainless steel, that's the way to do it. Just a wee bit of baby oil. Chip fat is not what you do it with, though.
No, no one wants to smell that.
Just in case anybody got an idea of like, oh, I've got oil in the cupboard. It's like, no, that's not what to do it with, because that just doesn't. That then has the wrong smell, I would say. So that's the sort of things to do, and plug holes and stuff like that. I'm a big fan of smells. As soon as you walk in a door, I think the smell sets the mood. As well as the light, as we just talked about, as well as the heat and the ambience and the whole thing, and that actually brings me nicely on all these wee tips and extra lights and stuff like that. That nicely brings me nicely on about the things about. There's nothing more inviting on a cold winter's evening than a doorway that actually glows with a welcoming and light and aura and a promise of a homely and heartening hug. When that sort of not a daylight light, but just a warm light, not a cool light either at the front door. I think just a warm light, so it gives off that radiant, rather than actually being white. It comes off with a less ambient light, which is more of a warm light, if that makes sense. Most rooms used to have warm light in it. And that's what caused a lot of darkness in a room. So in your rooms, in your main rooms, if you don't have much light coming in through windows and that, as we just discussed, probably the top tip for me is actually to put a daylight light in there. And so actually you get the natural light, and then you show your actual colours that you've just spent on, invested all that money in, to make it look the part and make it look like a showroom, and you show the colours in their natural environment. Sophie, going with this, the lighting and stuff like that, what other things can we do to seduce our buyers with lighting?
I think a key one here is there perhaps any areas in a room that are dark or unlit and aren't getting enough natural light? Then that's when we can gravitate towards lamps, whether it be floor lamps, whether it be table lamps. There is so many different ones that you can get, and again, just be mindful of the bulbs that we're putting in these lamps to again help with that warmth. So if you are going to do a lamp of whatever type, then think about what bulb is in it. And there's so many like cost-effective ones as well. I was just in Aldi's, and they've got, and it's perfect for if you perhaps work from home and you've got a desk, and it's perhaps you've just maximized a space that isn't that big. Perhaps it's under the stairs or it's in a wee nook somewhere. And actually, there's ones that you can actually plug in, and it's a little rechargeable lamp, and it actually looks really dainty. It's not too big, but it gave off so much light. So there is also inexpensive options as well. You don't need to go and buy these big, grand, floor lamps or anything like that. But something for those unlit or dark corners will make such a difference. So between
that then means to get rid of your old incandescent lights. See these old Scottish Power things that were all handed out? I've got several tubes on the light in itself. It takes about 10 years to heat up and actually get the light in the room. For goodness sake, and get rid of them, because I tell you what, if your estate agent is doing your viewings for you, or you're doing your viewings, you switch all the lights in the house on, even though it's the middle of the day. You have to do that, because you never know when a cloud's going to go by and it's going to cut out the light from the sun, and therefore all of a sudden, if you've got a room that's actually sensitive to that, it immediately goes dark, and it gives that wrong impression. And somebody's mind, they don't mention it, but they remember it. So get rid of that bulb. It's like, get proper LED, instant white light, instant daylight light in. That's probably my top tip. Sorry, Sophie, for interrupting.
No, that's okay. And then it's about other little light things that we can do as well. Sometimes you'll see, and it's actually quite nice in kitchens, perhaps, they've got the underlighting underneath the cabinets. Put those on. Have they perhaps got an extractor fan that's got a light built into it? Put that on as well. Have they perhaps got around the TV surrounds? You'll see more and more people are doing these media walls these days, and they've got the surround lights in them. Put that on. Anywhere where you have a light, put it on. And if you don't, then think about, can we perhaps get that light? And especially this time of year, this is perfect, because there's going to be an abundance of them in the shops. But fairy lights, there's so much that you can do with fairy lights. And I know some people that are a wee bit like Marmite, you either love them or you hate them. And some people do sometimes go OTT and have fairy lights hanging from every little surface in the house. So it is about being strategic with them again and not doing overkill. But they can have a brilliant impact, whether it be around perhaps a fireplace on a mantle or perhaps a headboard. There is so many different things that you can do. And this is where it's probably great to look for inspiration online as well. There's so many different inspiration posts, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or anything like that. People are putting them in jars, they're putting them in vases. There's so many different things that you can do. But again, it just helps with adding that warmth and that light. So that is a big thing, absolutely. And then I think
enjoy that, Sophie, I must admit, when I'm doing at home. So we talked about the log burner earlier on, and I don't always put it on because it's not always needed for the warmth. But actually what I have done in the past for that glow is I've put fairy lights inside the log burner, because you can still see them through the glass. Or I've put like little, you know how you get like the artificial candles that have got the little batteries in them. I've even put those in because they twinkle. So you may not necessarily need the fire on, but it's just another way of catching a glow in that area, isn't it? And wrapping them around the logs.
Makes a huge difference. Definitely, just and that small difference, and it's the fairy lights, and they've just got the wee batteries on them, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't need to plug them in anywhere.
No, exactly.
It's a huge difference. It's just, do you think it's because it just provides a focal point in the room?
I think it provides the focal point, but I think it provides the illusion of comfort. It makes you feel warm. It makes you feel settled. It makes you think that the people that live there have been attentive to the home. And again, it's all of these things that make the home feel welcoming, isn't it? I mean, we always talk about it, don't we? Your home's where the heart is. And when Sophie was talking about the glow as you're coming into the house, absolutely, that's what your viewer wants to feel, because it's our safe haven, isn't it? So when you see all these little touches, let's be honest, they're probably touches we all have. I know Sophie does all that with her lighting. I know that yourself and Elaine do all that with your lighting, your candles, your scents,
Well,
etc.
maybe just Elaine.
We all do it.
Maybe just Elaine. It's like,
Well, maybe.
I can't really take any credit for this.
It is very inviting though, and I think that we all feel the same way. So none of this, although we feel it's kind of like a masterclass, none of it is like teaching your granny and all that statements, but it's quite simplistic things that actually not always a seller will think about, because for a seller, this is quite a serious place that they're in. That's a massive decision to sell their home, isn't it? So they're quite anxious. There's lots of anxiety going on. So actually these little simple things that we're sharing sometimes get forgotten about, but they can be so dramatic in actually the outcome for yourself for selling the home.
You've lived in the house for years, I suppose. And because you've lived in the house for years, you get just so used to how it is right now. Whereas you don't realise, and it does take your estate agent to probably point that out. It's maybe you should. So for a seller and somebody potentially selling, when your estate agent's round, you should be asking them for these types of tips. What sort of things, lighting wise, should I be putting in the house? All and other things we spoke about. Should I actually get rid of the curtains? Should I open the curtains? Should I close the curtains? Should I close the blinds? Should I put the heating on? When should I put the heating on? What heating setting should I put it on? These are all things that you should ask your estate agent when you've got them round about what you should do and how you should present it and how you should show it. That'll set the wheat from the chaff.
It absolutely does.
Because some won't actually know, will they?
No, they won't. And actually, we're talking about this being the prominent time for you as a seller to maximise the market when everyone's waiting till spring. So these are the little things that will really make your property stand out. And that's what you're really trying to achieve at the end of the day.
This could be the difference between 295,000 and 300,000 for your house. And and it is these simple things.
An offer and no offer.
Yeah. And it could be the difference between an offer and no offer at all. And it's these simple things which will make a fundamental difference in people's minds, just to get them to that tipping point, I would say. This is what I find every single time. The stories as well, you tell the backstories about the area and about things that go on. It always reminds me in St. Monans about when, the person says, this maybe isn't for us, this one bedroom lower apartment in St. Monans. And I started to talk about the St. Monans, the Battle of St. Monans, and I started to talk about the Weems witches and all the rest of it, and all the history that came behind that, and the fishing trade and the walks and the Fife Coastal Path. Had to get that in there somewhere. And then at the end of it, they went, we're going to make you an offer. And I'm like, what? It's like, you just told me you weren't going to offer, and now you're going to make it. That's what I thought in my mind, by the way. You just told me you weren't going to make an offer, and now you're making me an offer. And it came in at over the 100,000 mark. And that was the first time in the whole of East Neuk, a one-bedroom apartment, I'd go over £100,000. Just like that. And it showed me straight away, it's not the clinical aspects of the property. It's sell it to someone. It's the emotional tie and the connection with the community. If somebody gets from that, it will sell the property.
It's the lifestyle, 100%.
Lifestyle, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're selling a house, but they're going to make it a home.
Yep.
And we have to build that dream within them in order to let them see that this is the ideal home for them. And it is about building a dream. Even though they don't know. Some walk through the door and they don't know they're even going to buy this house until we get to the end, and I've decided they're buying it.
But it's interesting.
But you have to go in with that mindset. You have to go in with that mindset. It's like, this person's going to buy this house, and I know they're going to buy it because I know the buyer. Before they walk in the door, because I've done my homework, I've qualified them, we know what position they're in, we know what ticks all the boxes that they want, and this property ticks all their boxes, and it's my job to point out to them that this is their property, their dream property, and these are the reasons why. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all these different reasons are the reasons why this is the property for them. So we're not We're not just trying to sell them anything. We know their particulars, we know their requirements, we've invested time in the buyer and what they want, and we know this is what it is, this is their one. Even though, because remember, the only thing they're seeing at that point in time is some pictures and a description for most estate agents, and maybe a music video, a silent movie, what I call them. There's nothing compelling about it. There's no talk up. There's no reason why they want to come and see this property. There's no talk up about the area. They don't know anything about it at all. So I think that's why it's so important as well to do video walkthrough, but also talk up about the area and about what it can be for someone else. I think that's what gets more buyers. And I think that's what as well gets a higher price point at the end, because it's this simple supply and demand.
Yeah.
If you're creating a demand and you're creating a demand more than other people will create a demand, then you'll get a better offer. That's a fact. That's supply and demand.
It is that, but I think, and Sophie, you'll agree with this, I'm sure, because you'll have seen it yourself, but particularly because of the video work that we do, for me, by the time that my viewer comes to visit me, I've understood all what you've said about them, Jim. So I've got that in my cachet and I know that that's how they're ticking. And then it's about how do I master this home to match it with them. But that example you've just used, Jim, with the story, the St. Mona situation, you're absolutely right with that, because I had that similar situation with a client who was coming over from Edinburgh. They didn't really know the area. And basically, they loved the house. They'd watched the video so many times that really they were just coming in, and it's everything we're speaking about. They're coming in to see how it feels. I'm 95% convinced, because I've seen all your video work. It's almost like I've been in the property. I now just need to see how it feels. And then I need to understand the location, actually, because this is new to me. So the video has given them some good insight to that, because we talk about that, so don't we, all the time, about what the lifestyle they can get in the local area. But what I also did in that particular instance, because I knew I was invested in the person, I knew they loved golf because I was chatting to them as they were going round. So when they were here, I drove them down to the beach. I showed them where the golf clubs were. I showed them where Letham Glen was. They followed me to Silverburn Park, and they literally could see everything that was on their doorstep, because they were outdoors people. They loved walking, they loved playing golf, and they wanted to go somewhere that they could go and have dinner. So I pointed out agenda to them. I took them to LGS so they could see where they could go and get a nice lunch. And actually the feedback afterwards was that they felt they'd almost had not just a tour of the property, but a tour of the town, and they could really see what was on offer. So they were 95% sure about the house already, but now they've seen everything else that they can get. They offered on that property, and I'm sure that it was all of those things that drove them to that decision point.
Absolutely.
Because it was everything that they needed in their lives. And that's what's so important, because your home is, again, where the heart is. It's everything about you, and you want to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Do you have that similar experience, Sophie?
I literally had it yesterday with a client. We were actually back in St. Monans, and they turned up to the viewing. I was waiting outside for them. I was actually sitting right on the harbour, and they were like, "Oh, okay, you're sitting here." And I was like, "Well, why wouldn't I be? Look at it." But it was also because it was right on the doorstep, and I wanted them to see that this could be their lifestyle, that they could literally just bring their morning coffee and sit on this bench. They had the dog with them, and we started to walk towards the house, and it was an empty property. Bit of a project, does need a lot of work, and you can see that, but it'll take the right person to see the potential in it and see what they're buying into. And
I'll buy it. See, as soon as you started talking about that bench, I just imagined it in my mind, and the emotion state came right back to me, because I've sat on that bench and had coffee there, and I know what it feels like. And honestly, I just thought, I'm buying it. Whatever it is, I'm not caring what you're selling, I'm buying it.
Well, that's where I met them, and that's where we started the viewing. We started the viewing at that bench, and then they're like, "Oh, we're just going to put the dog in the car." And I was like, "It's an empty property. Bring the dog in. It's the dog's home as well. Let the dog see where it's going to be living." I was like, "Bring the dog in. Let's go." And actually, when we got in, I'd already obviously been in the house and prepped it, lights on, everything. I'd opened, now this property, their upstairs open plan level is on the upper level, because you've obviously got the views. So I'd opened the windows. I'd opened the sash and case windows, just like I had done in the video as well. So when we got upstairs and we got there, and he was like, "Oh, I see what you mean. In the video you mentioned you can hear the birds in the background through the windows being open." And I was like, "Absolutely, you can." And it was the exact same. And I was there yesterday. You heard the birds coming through, and he was like, "Oh, you weren't lying in the video. You can actually hear it." I says, "Absolutely." And then he was like, "This is great. That'll be where the dog will position itself, on the window, on the bench, and it'll just be nosy out." And actually, as they were going around, they were saying, "Oh, this is quite a bit of work. This is a bit of work." But I could tell that they just had the feeling for it. They could see the views, they could see the location. They already were saying that that was going to be the dog's seat at the bench at the window. So they were already putting themselves in that. And as they were going through, they were then talking about all the different places and what work they would do. And actually, where they'd started out being like, we think it's a bit too much work, but we wanted to just see it and rule it out, basically. And also, we didn't actually want ceremonies, we were more looking for pit and ream. By the end of it, they were like, we're going to come back with our architect for a second viewing. Okay,
St Maurice to me is the jewel in the crown, because it's literally just about 3 miles away from Ely as well, which is one of the pinnacles in the whole of Scotland. And it's got fantastic walks, beaches, and all the rest of it, and the history that comes behind it. But that's by the by. So, so what then? When we come back to things like lighting and stuff like that, and lamps and everything, we also move on to things like garden, because you touched on that slightly. And so you know, the gardens and stuff like that. How important is that, Sophie? How important is a garden?
Oh, you're absolutely right. Yes, we need to think about the inside space, but that needs to naturally flow to the outside. And we mean your front garden and your back garden, any outdoor space that you have, we need to really make the absolute most out of it in this season. Whether it be, Perry, you touched on it, you've had you/Billy out clearing leaves. So there's obviously that element, that's a big part of it. And then perhaps look at your florals and obviously your shrubs and your plants. What can you do to give them just a bit of life? If there's a lot of dead ones, trim them back. Also, it's helping you get prepped for obviously spring, summer next year. Is there perhaps branches lying around as well that again don't look great, but also a safety element? It is just about looking at all these pieces. Have you perhaps left your outdoor furniture out and now it's taken a bit of a battering from the weather and it's not looking its best? Can we perhaps either look at putting it away, or can we cover it up perhaps, or even can we just give it a clean and make it look a bit more presentable rather than it looking a bit derelict? Because again, it's all these little mindset pieces. If somebody looks out into the garden perhaps and they do see dead flowers and then leaves everywhere, and then perhaps you've got your outdoor furniture and you've left the rug out or some cushions and it's not looking great, it just doesn't look cared for, and people then can't see and feel the magic of being out in that garden space and socializing.
This is the old adage about if they see that you've not cared for something, what else haven't you cared for within the property itself? 100%. I think that then comes into it as well. I definitely think. So things like you're absolutely right. Raking up the leaves, sweeping everything to the side, putting everything away. Should you bring out furniture just for the occasion of the viewing? If it's possible, is that a good idea to do?
If you have it, then absolutely, why not? And especially if you have those kind of winter-proof textiles, your blankets, your cushions, because there is still going to be, yes, we're in winter, but there is still going to be some lovely, crisp, sunny mornings where you still might have somebody that wants to sit out and start their morning with the coffee. Or perhaps they're going to go, and if they're going to let the dog out anyway into the garden, they might follow the dog out and want to sit for a wee second. Or perhaps in the evening, if they've got, because we speak so much about log burners inside, but people also have fire pits in their gardens for the evenings. So actually, if we can showcase an outdoor space that looks cared for, then absolutely show it. Because again, people might still sit out on the occasions where we do get a little bit of sun. But if they can't see it at all, then again, they're not going to hone into that senses. And especially if they've got that at home, they want to be able to see that mirrored at their potential new home as well.
How important is this, Perry? The garden, is it like an additional room? Should we treat it like that?
Yeah, 100%. It should be treated as an additional room. I think more so we've seen that. I know we talk about this often, and it's 5 years ago, but more so since COVID, people have created outdoor spaces in their gardens. They're not just a lawn with a couple of bits of flowers in there. People have got living spaces in the gardens. So for me, it's vital. And Sophie's absolutely right. It's important to dress the garden and bring that furniture out, put your throws over it. You don't necessarily need to light the outside fire pit, but even if you've just put the logs in it, it's creating the illusion. You know, put the logs in it, put some throws in it, put your
the wee lights as well.
The lights, exactly. So if you've got lamps, put lights out, put candles in them on your deck or your patio area. It just really creates a lovely welcoming space. More so as well, even if they haven't reached the garden yet, the viewer, if they're in the house and you've got the patio doors and they're walking through, or even when you're doing the video work, Sophie and I, I do this all the time, you're giving people a sneak peek of the garden from inside the house. So from the house, you want to be able to see the garden looks nice as well, because if the house is absolutely cracking and people have applied all these tips that we've provided, and then someone just looks out the window and everything in the garden's a mess because it's not being maintained and it's not showing its potential, it's been wasted a little bit by doing that, because you've then almost created that negative feeling, because 9 times out of 10, unless you've got an absolutely stunning view, the garden's the thing that happens at the end, because you don't want to go into the garden and then take mud into the house. So you tend to do the house, then go into the garden. So you might have created this 98% buyer, and then they walk into the garden and then suddenly they go, so
lets it down. It's the curb appeal that comes with it, though. The curb appeal at the beginning, when you come into the front. I mean, if the front garden doesn't look that great, then it sets the mood and the tone for everything else, which is quite off-putting for a lot of people. And it takes a lot then to get somebody back on side again when they walk in the door. I've had it where, you know, maybe a customer has neglected their house, even though they've gone against my advice. And then I've taken the person to the door, and by the time they've even walked over the door, they've said, "This isn't the one for me."
Yeah.
And then I'm on the back foot straight away, and I'm like, "All right, okay, what gives you that? Where's the garden? Okay, let's just. I can't disagree with you about the garden. Here's the classic response. I can't disagree with you. Walls come down. We're easy to communicate with them now. They're open to suggestion. But let's have a wee walk around and just show you, because then it'll give me a good idea about what you'd like in your house. If you have a look at this, then I know it's no for you, but you'll have a look at this, and then you can tell me the things that you like and the things that you dislike. So when we go to see the next house, I'll be able to match something that's more appropriate to your needs. And then often you actually get them back on side doing that. So that's a really good top tip if you're doing your own viewings as a seller.
Very much so. And I think the curb appeal aspect for talking about the garden space as well, for me, it's really great if you could have some ornamental things at the front of the garden. You can go to Home Bargains, B&M's, all those stores have them, but you get the glass balls that you can put candles in. And again, if people are walking up to your door, it just feels so inviting. Even in Home Bargains, they do beautiful wintry wreaths. They're only a couple of pounds. Even hanging one of those on your door, again, it's inviting, because instantly it's saying this is cared for. There's colour, there's warmth, there's love in what this person's doing. So you get that positive feeling before you've entered the property. And it just goes in.
It kind of goes in line with the music about here's the season to be jolly. When you think about and you know, now's the time to be jolly and all the rest of it. And that it's almost emblazoned in everybody's mind. So when you do see things like that, it does set off these wee anchors and these wee triggers within you in order to evoke these emotional responses that you don't actually know what's happening, you know, in the background in terms of what you're doing. So you just know you've got a good feeling. That's why people walk into a property and go, "I've got a good feeling about this one." It's like, well, it's a scientific fact by what we've done. This is why you've got a good feeling. Obviously, you don't tell them that. But that's the reason why, and I think that's what the skill comes out in a stage and say, and how they know how to do that. I think that is a skill that adds value to the whole process for the seller and also for the buyer for their journey.
Yes, I would agree. Just on the final part about the garden as well, though, this is just me because I do this. Wildlife is a fundamental part of gardening as well, I believe. So. Again, for people coming into your garden, if they see bird feeders, etc., they absolutely enjoy that, because again, it comes across as a caring person, which means the home's being cared for. But when you're sweeping up all those leaves that we're talking about as well, just be mindful of the little hedgehogs and things like that.
We've got 5 hedgehogs in the garden now.
So you just need to be careful.
And the rescue centre keeps phoning us. You want to take another one? Yeah, okay then. Just bring it round.
It is important though. So those things are important, but also with bird feeders as well. They're a real big attraction for people, and they like to see that in gardens. But again, if they're bird feeders you've had in your garden for quite some time, give them a wee clean with your outside hose, because again, encrusted with poop is not really the look that you want to be going for.
If you've got, and it's good as well, like what you said about the wildlife, about you've still got the squirrels, they're going about. You've still got the hedgehogs now and again. Some will be hibernating, but you sometimes might get them. So it's important to leave something out for them just in case. But it's great if you've got a young family as well. It's a great thing because it teaches them to care for something else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
so it teaches them a lot of valuable lessons overall, and excites them as well. I remember when I was young, we used to love watching birds all the time. The robins, the swallows, and all the rest of it. And we used to sit and name them all the time, sit and look at the window and just watch them on the trees. We were fascinated when we were younger. And still, it sometimes fascinates me when I'm out running and when I'm out cycling and stuff like that. You've got all these different types, and then you've got, if you're lucky enough to live close to a field, and it's like you've got the deer.
Yes.
So there's a lot of wild deer about now and again. I mean, especially in lockdown, when everybody was in their house and nobody was ever there, they were just coming out and walking over golf courses and stuff like that. There was
amazing.
loads of them. They must have thought, oh my goodness, this is like I Am Legend. It's like, not that they've ever seen that film, but it's like no one else is here. It's all mine. Run free. That sort of thing. So that's the type of things that I think are absolutely fantastic, and you've nailed it. It's that. We are, if I would say, are in an enchanting season at this point in time. This is the point where people begin to focus on the ambience and the colours and the
100%.
smells and the emotive action about how it makes them feel a bit cozy and family and all the rest of it round about them. I think that's the most important thing.
They do, and I think for wildlife as well, when we talk about robins, I think for me, and everyone does this, don't they? A lot of people feel that robins are part of your family that have passed, etc. So if you can invite those animals into your garden and your viewer has the opportunity to see those, again, it transports them in their mind to a person, a place, a time. And those things are important. You've just given an example there, Jim, of as a child, how you used to enjoy doing it. As an adult, when I see a robin in my garden, my mum always used to call me Henny. So in the morning, if I see one in the morning, I say, "Morning, Henny," and I'm straight away talking to the robin. And it's bonkers, but it's a love affection that you have, and you want to create that feeling with your viewer.
Memory.
Yeah,
definitely. Okay, let's talk about the final subject, and we're going to be quick before we finish off. Sophie.
Yep.
Christmas decorations, yes or no?
Yes, if done tastefully. And that's the key here. If it's done tastefully, yes, you're selling your home, absolutely. But especially if it's perhaps a family home and you've got young children, you still want them to feel like it's their home. You still want to have that element and the excitement of Christmas. But there is key tips that you can be doing just to make it not take over the room and take over the space and almost become at a detriment. And that is the thing. I think there's a couple of key tips that we will help you with. We speak often about the positioning of things. So speak about if you are going to do a tree, that's absolutely fine. Just think about the size of the tree for starters. I know we always say size matters, but in this case, let's just not go too big. Let's keep it smaller.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, the Griswolds.
The raccoon in the tree.
Let's get the tree from the local square, and we'll put that in our room. It's like we've got nowhere to sit.
Yeah. So don't fall victim to that. Just be a bit more mindful, and then also think about where we position it. You might automatically go and position it where you position it every single year, and that's where you position it. But if it's perhaps going to block window or block light, or perhaps it ends up totally swamping the room, then consider somewhere better positioned. And especially if we can allow buyers to still walk through the space. Something as well to think of, and this is probably where we'll get mixed reviews, and we'll open this up to the group. But if you're going to do a Christmas tree, maybe don't do a real one unless you're willing to keep on top of the cleaning. And every time you've got somebody come in, you're going to clear it up and clean up the little shards. So maybe think about artificial in this sense. But then I know
it's easily movable as well.
Yes. Absolutely.
So if you do want to move it for because you might want to put it in your usual place. It might be smart bang in front of the window, but you might have the opportunity if you are doing a viewing and it's a smaller kind of tree at this time of year, because obviously you are selling, and then you might be able to move it to the side to bring more light in. That might be a top tip in order to do that. It might be easy to do that as well, I think, for photographers. So they can actually, you can easily get everything out of the room to get the photograph taken, put it all back in, job done, and easily have movable stuff as well. For if you want the viewings and you do want to take all the decorations out, easily quick ones that you can just put away in a cupboard and then put them back on. It's up to yourself, isn't it, Perry? It's kind of up to the individual person. But I wouldn't say go overboard.
Everyone's different. Don't go with multicolored lights would be my thing. Go with natural lights as well. I think it's a big thing because that's where multicolored can confuse things, and all that ambience we've talked about creating can disappear because you've got these multi-lights that are just flying around and people aren't really enjoying that process. But actually, the Christmas tree is a big thing because I take people on viewings. 9 times out of 10, I must admit, ladies, it is us that do it. They'll say, "Oh, that's where the Christmas tree will go." Even if you're showing them a house in July, that's what they'll say.
Yeah.
So it's
never
important.
Thought about that actually. If you've got it positioned perfectly, it does paint that picture about, oh, that's where the Christmas tree can go in here, and we've still got adequate room for furniture.
Yeah, exactly. But I think as well as we talk about moving things, is you can quickly box up your items too, because remember that you're going to be getting your photographs taken at Christmas. So if you had your photographer out, your photographs are taken, and your property is still in the first week in January, second week in January up for sale, you don't want really necessarily to see your photographs still all with your Christmas decorations. So it's about striking that right balance. So it's maybe take some Christmas shots and then move things so you can take natural shots. So then after that season, we can readjust it for you, take out the Christmas ones and put in the natural shots. So again, that's all about good planning from your agent to work with you and give you that guidance through that process as well.
Absolutely. So in short, just to finalise this then, Christmas decorations can actually add a wonderful scene to of the occasion to your viewings. But as long as they give your home the space to shine, I think.
Yes.
I think that's the most important thing we have to remember. Anyway, thanks very much for coming on the show. If anybody wants to comment on that, please feel free to comment. You can listen to this podcast, share it with somebody that needs it. At the end of the day, if somebody's thinking about selling, if they're thinking about buying, it's maybe an opportunity to actually share this with them as well. Just click on the link above or below, and thanks very much for coming on, and we'll see everybody else next time. Bye bye for now.
Take care.
Let's take care.